Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. We are going to be talking about Sugar 101. So we're going to be looking at how sugar is really messing with your health goals and some of the tips that can help you get off that sugar, okay? Or at least be aware of how it's sneaking into your diet so that you can make alternative and healthier choices, okay? So for those of you who don't know me, I'm an advanced holistic nutritionist. I have a strong belief in the healing power of food. I have a 17-year-long health journey battle of balancing my hormones that has led me to actually experience symptomatic relief from my diagnoses and my hormone imbalances. And that symptomatic relief and that control that I have has inspired me to help women and their families really take back control of their health just through simple long-term lifestyle solutions that are going to teach the basics, implement the actions that are required to make those lifestyle changes and commitments, and just really experience the incredible feeling of wellness and health, okay? Now, for those of you who don't know me, I am also an bilingual mama. So I am bilingual in training. My daughter's first language is French. Mine is not. So you'll have to excuse me if at any time during the presentation tonight, I stutter on my words or you find me searching for the correct word. It's truthfully because I spend so much of my day thinking and talking in a second language that shifting to my first language can actually be a bit of a struggle for me. So you'll have to excuse me if I fumble a little bit, but otherwise, hopefully, I'm going to make it through without too much fumbling. So let's get started, okay? Here's a little bit of food for thought, okay? And I want you to keep this in mind as we discuss some of the topics tonight, but basically, food companies are in the business of making money, not of protecting your health and well-being. Therefore, we have a personal responsibility to learn all that we can about our food. Now, what is sugar, right? We hear that word. A lot of us are afraid of it. A lot of us maybe have a misunderstanding of what it is. Basically, in a very basic concept, sugar is a common name for a number of carbohydrates that are just found in plant tissues, okay? It is primarily used as a fuel and energy source by our bodies and our brains. And in its most natural form, these carbohydrates are actually healthy for us. And in their natural form, a true sugar, these carbohydrates, they contain proteins and fats, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and even enzymes that are activated when we eat them, okay? This is how many of us are not familiar with sugar. We don't understand that sugar is truly a good thing for our body. But then if that's the case, why do we have so much trouble with it, right? So there are two forms of sugar. There are your good sources and there are your bad sources of sugar. Now, your good sources of sugar really come down to being a complex form of carbohydrate. And complex means that these sugar molecules are linked together in such a way that they are difficult or take a longer process for our body to break them down into accessible molecules, okay? And that's because they contain fiber and starches. They contain those vitamins and minerals, phytonutrients and macronutrients, the fats and the proteins. They require digestion in order to break down the starches and fiber to access those sugars. Our complex forms of carbohydrates also provide a long and sustained source of energy without that crash, okay? They're metabolized by the intestines. This is a really big deal because we're going to see when we look at the simple form of carbohydrates that these are actually metabolized in a different area of our body, okay? They also help remove unhealthy or harmful bacteria from our digestive tract. And that is because of these, the fiber and the starches. These actually work as sort of a sweeping machine that work its way through our digestive tract, almost like a vacuum, picking up unhealthy bacteria, holding onto it and excreting it throughout our body, okay? So they are helping to remove unhealthy toxins in our body, okay? They're aiding in the growth of healthy bacteria in our digestive tracts. And this is because they contain enzymes that are known as prebiotics. And prebiotics are what help our probiotics grow and flourish. They contain enzymes that promote whole body wellness. They activate our body's natural hunger shutoff switch. This is a big point right here, okay? Because they activate our body's ability to recognize when we are no longer hungry, it means we are less likely to overeat, eat too many calories, fill our stomach too much when we are eating complex forms of carbohydrates. And so they promote good overall health, and these can be found in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and legumes such as beans, lentils, and pulses, okay? Now, if we head over to this other side, bad sugars, okay? These are what's known as simple forms of carbohydrates. They have been stripped of their starches and their fiber. They are no longer complex. They have been broken down into these simple molecules, which our body can quickly and readily absorb as an immediate fuel source, but unfortunately contain little to none nutritional benefits to our body. So while they provide an immediate energy boost to our body, it doesn't last long because our body has not had to strip it down to access those sugar molecules. So instead, what happens is these sugar molecules are passed through our body and they're metabolized by our liver, which actually causes damage to our liver, and then is what causes that energy crash. Now, simple forms of carbohydrates damage the healthy bacteria in our digestive tract, okay? So on the other side, we saw that, these complex forms of carbohydrates are promoting and removing unhealthy bacteria in our digestive tract. And instead, when we are eating simple forms of carbohydrates and these simple sugars, we are actually damaging that bacteria within our gut. And we're actually allowing unhealthy and harmful bacteria in our digestive tract to grow. Now, for those of you who don't know, our digestive tract is considered our second brain. It is where so much of our bodily functions, our moods, our energy levels, our symptoms that we experience are originating from, okay? So if we have a healthy gut bacteria and we have a healthy digestive tract, we are more likely to have good health. If we are allowing our digestive tract to be overrun and populated by unhealthy bacteria, that is when we start to experience symptoms such as fatigue, bloating, brain fog, mood swings, energy dips, cravings, okay, and a whole list of other things, even things like leaky gut, okay, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But basically what's happening is these simple forms of carbohydrates, they're not just working against us in our digestive tract because they are actually stimulating pleasure centers in our brain that cause cravings and addiction. They're promoting illness and disease. And these types of carbohydrates and these bad sugars can be found in refined grains, candies, cakes, processed foods, fruit juices, carbonated drinks, alcohol. Again, we're going to get into where you can find these specifically and where they're showing up in your day-to-day that maybe you didn't realize, okay? Now, did you know, this is where it's super important, okay? If we are well educated, we can make good decisions. So did you know that sugar is hiding behind over 50 different names? 50 different names, and most of the time it's not sugar on the label. So as you can see here, these ingredients, this is just a handful. I think this was about 25, maybe about 30 of the different names of sugar that can be found on a label of any sort of food, okay? So you can see that some of these maybe stick out to you. You've seen before, fructose. Well, a lot of us think of fructose as fruit and we think, okay, cool, so that's a healthy sugar option because it comes from fruit. No, it's still a simple sugar and it no longer has the fiber and the starches that are going to sustain your body long-term and promote good health, okay? Lactose, that's a sugar found in milk. Cane sugar, coconut sugar, corn syrup solids, let's see, barley malt, brown rice syrup, and high fructose corn syrup, okay? So these are all simple sugars that are used and being added into our foods to enhance flavor, to increase the sweetness, to improve your chances of buying this product again. So going back to what I said earlier in that food for thought, how food companies are in the business of making money. Okay. So these companies, you know, they have entire teams who are designated to just developing a product that not only tastes good, but is going to have you coming back for more every time. And they know that these types of added sugars are triggering that addictive and that craving behavior within our brains. So they are working and using that against us in order to market their products. Now, I'm not saying all of this to scare you, okay? It's not about a fear-mongering tactic. What I'm saying is that we have to look out for our own best interest. And when we are educated, we can better understand what is in our best interest. So, do you have to eliminate all of these types of added sugar products from your diet in order to experience good health? No. Is it realistic to assume that you can eliminate all of these from your diet and assume that you can do that long term? No. Is it realistic to think that you could make some changes in some of the food that you eat, the ingredients that you use, or maybe even the brands of products that you are buying on a regular basis? I think so. I think that is a reasonable expectation for most people to be able to accomplish on a regular basis. So where is sugar actually hiding? Okay. So like I said earlier, it's hiding in refined grains. So that would be your white breads, your bagels, your buns, pasta, flour, anything basically processed with a white flour, that would have the high levels of a simple sugar. Okay. And that's because white flour, specifically white flour grains, goes through the process of refining and removing the fiber and the starches. And as we saw earlier, that is what really leaves it down into that simple sugar aspect. Okay, but cereal is a really big one. It's not uncommon for 3/4 to 1 cup of cereal to contain anywhere between 15 and 22 grams of sugar. Okay, that's a really high content of sugar to be sitting and consuming in one meal of added refined sugars. Okay. Snacks, I think that one is a lot of us are familiar with, depending on the types of snacks that we're buying, but even certain snacks that we are buying, say for our children, that are assumed to be healthy, or maybe they say sugar-free on the front of the package. I touched on a little bit of this last night in the Ask a Nutritionist series last night, about how the front of a box and the front of a package is designed to sell to you. Okay. And so it's not uncommon to find catchphrases and, popular tag words such as sugar free on the front of a box. And unfortunately, marketing laws in North America actually do permit companies to label a food as sugar free, but then still contain several different sources of simple added sugars, just labeled in different forms. Okay. So you're going to find those 50 something words in your snacks and your processed convenience and your fast foods. But here's where it gets really interesting that we often don't recognize: our salad dressings and our sauces. Okay. It's not uncommon for maybe even 2 tablespoons of, say, a plum sauce bought from the grocery store to have 12 grams of added sugar. To give you some perspective, a small amount of acceptable sugar in one sitting from an added source, an added simple source, would be 5 grams or less. If you're looking between 5 and 10 grams per serving, 5 to maybe 15, you might be okay. If you're looking at over 15 grams of sugar, added simple sugars in one serving of one type of food at one meal or one serving, that's too much. Okay, that is pushing the limits of what your body can handle at any one given time, and just adding on to the amount of sugar that you're eating in a day. To give you a little bit more perspective, it's recommended that we consume no more than 100 grams of sugar per day, and that is supposed to include your complex forms of sugar. which would include things like your fruit and your whole grains and your legumes, okay? So 100 grams is not a lot when you consider 2 tablespoons of your sauce maybe just has 15 grams, right? So you think about all the different meals that we eat in a day and all the little places that it's hiding and it's showing up in your body and in your food, and it's perpetuating the cycle of the craving of adding it to your food, okay? Now, alcohol and drinks is another really big one. That includes non-alcoholic drinks. So, pops, juices, and then of course, all forms of alcohol are a very, very simple sugar source, which are not recommended in large quantities, okay? Now, what is the true problem with sugar? Well, it increases our cravings. We already talked about that from a mental standpoint, but also from a liver or a digestive tract standpoint. The unhealthy bacteria in our body, they grow and they flourish on these simple added sugars. So when we start to detox our body from sugar and we start to remove sugar, simple added sugars from our diet, those little bacteria in our digestive tract, they start to dwindle. And so they go into this state of panic and they think, I mean, it's subconscious, but they go into a fight or flight, and they decide like, okay, we need more sugars in order for us to revive ourselves. And so that increases a craving aspect within your body at a chemical level, where your body is saying, whoa, like I got to eat some more simple sugars to replenish what's going on inside. Now, of course, the benefit to how our bodies work is that the opposite is also true. So when we have good, healthy bacteria in our digestive tract, our body will crave the right types of food that is going to support the growth of those healthy bacteria, okay? So sugar is also promoting insulin resistance. It's leading to type 2 diabetes as well as cardiovascular disease. It's raising our cortisol and testosterone estrogen levels. So if I saw that there are a lot of women on here tonight, if you are experiencing any form of a hormone imbalance or a symptom of a hormone imbalance, or even just womanly problems, a lot of that can be related and circled back to having high levels of cortisol, testosterone, and or estrogen, okay? So 3 big things there that a lot of our symptoms can be reduced or controlled or managed by being more aware of the types of sugar we're allowing to be put into our body, okay? It's also promoting fat storage. It's increasing our headaches and migraines. It's interfering with our attention span, our focus, and our memory. And this is the same for our children. So if we are feeding children, those convenient granola bars that we find on the shelf in the grocery store that maybe have about 8 or 9, maybe even 12 grams of sugar, of added sugar, most likely high fructose corn syrup or a brown rice syrup to keep the granola bar held together, and of course to increase the sweetness of it. These are interfering with our body's ability to actually focus and retain memory. So you may want to consider choosing healthier alternatives to send your children to school with in order for them to have the best opportunity for them to learn and retain what's going on around them. So a really simple alternative to that would be a homemade granola with some yogurt, okay? Sugar is damaging our liver because these simple added sugars are being digested and metabolized in our liver instead of our digestive tract. Okay, they're promoting bloating and leaky gut, causing our skin issues. They're decreasing our immune system. They're causing weight gain, and they are promoting inflammation. For those of you who are unfamiliar with inflammation, it is essentially our body recognizing that there are invaders within it. And so our immune system sends out, our inflammatory response to put out the little fire of invaders, okay? And while our body is busy doing that, our body is susceptible to other attacks, okay? And inflammation is one of the root causes of most symptoms, illnesses, and diseases. So when we can reduce the level of inflammation within our body, we can promote better health within. Now, this is one that everyone always asks me, how is sugar really making me gain weight? okay? And it really comes down to how our hormones are produced and how sugar interferes with our hormones. Basically, when we are consuming added refined sugars, this is causing a spike in our insulin levels. And this is basically our energy boost, where our body gets a little bit of energy and we feel better. We've got a little bit of pump and hop in our step. But then what's happening here is this insulin level is increasing our level of cortisol, and our cortisol is our stress hormone. When we have elevated cortisol, our body enters a fight or flight survival mode. And when we are in this fight or flight survival mode, we begin to store fat cells and slow down our metabolism. This is just an ingrained automatic response that our body goes through when presented with high levels of stress hormone, okay? And so as we are storing fat cells and our metabolism is slowing down, we are actually increasing the level of cortisol being stored in the fat cells, estrogen being stored in our fat cells, testosterone being stored in our fat cells, toxins being stored in our fat cells, including toxins that increase our likelihood to have cravings and sugar cravings and desire to eat more sugar. So this increased fat cells increases our hunger, because now we are becoming insulin resistant. So the level of insulin that our body would naturally produce is no longer enough to stabilize our body and to metabolize the amount of sugar coming into our blood, okay? And that perpetuates the cycle where we're now having a higher level of insulin being produced when we are consuming sugar. And the circle, it truthfully just keeps going around and around. And the best way to break it is to reduce the amount of refined sugars in your diet. So how do we do that? How are we reducing sugar in our diet? Okay, number one, don't skip your meals. When you skip your meal, you have a blood sugar drop, okay? And that is essentially when, we talked about our insulin levels going up as our blood sugar level goes up with more sugar in our blood. When that drops, we have an energy crash. When we have an energy crash, we are more likely to make poor food choices because our body is in that state of fight or flight, and it recognizes that we need something highly concentrated in simple sugars in order to re-stabilize our blood sugar. Okay, don't keep it in the house. If you don't have simple added sugar products in your house, you're not going to eat them. Eat enough protein and healthy fats. Healthy fats helps our body metabolize sugar, and protein is going to help you feel full. It's going to help you feel like satisfied after you eat, okay? Eat something healthy first. So if you are craving something sweet, go to the fridge, eat something healthy first. Have some, a really great option would be an apple with some peanut butter or almond butter. Have a smoothie with some coconut milk in there as a healthy fat, or an avocado even, and throw some veggies in there for that extra boost of fiber. When you've completed that, here's what's going to happen. Two things. One, you will not be as hungry, so you're less likely to eat that sugary or that sweet treat, okay? And then if you do eat it, you're not going to eat as much of it, okay? Because your body will have activated that shut-off switch that says, I'm no longer hungry. So at that point, you may be eating for other reasons, okay? We're gonna touch a little bit on that a little bit. And then use healthy sweets. So consider ways to use alternatives in the way that you're eating. So, a smoothie is a really great way to overcome that sugar craving. Also, of course, making homemade puddings or homemade cakes. One of my favorite ways to do that is actually using the Juice Plus Complete Protein Powder. Okay, this is a low glycemic load that stabilizes our blood sugar because it has 8 grams of powerful prebiotic fiber that's going to help balance those bacteria within your digestive tract. So you're not having that sugar spike and you're not having that energy drop, okay? It's vegan and non-GMO. To me, that's truthfully very important. But it's also gluten and dairy free, which means it does not contain components that could potentially increase or cause inflammation within your body. And then because it's a plant-based protein blend, it's incredibly clean, whole food ingredients, and it's only sweetened with organic dried cane juice and stevia. Now, because it contains the prebiotic fiber, the actual like net sugar carbs of a whole serving is only 1 gram, which is amazing, right? So when we consider that we're allowed about 100 grams of sugar in a day, 1 gram sounds pretty awesome. So this is one of my favorite ways to overcome some of those cravings and to help stabilize my blood sugar when I feel those coming on, or I really want something sweet. And it's a really multi-use product. Comes in 2 flavors, the Dutch chocolate and the French vanilla. So you could use it in smoothies, you can make smoothie bowls, you can make pudding, you could put it in pancakes, you can make energy bowls. There's so many different ways to use this powder that it really, really does. It's a key component in my diet that helps me overcome my personal cravings, okay? A couple other ways, get enough sleep, okay? Your daily routine really does matter. When we are tired, we are likely to eat more than we should, okay? And that is because our hormone levels are off, like our cortisol levels are off within our body, and that causes us to eat more. But you also need to know what you're eating. So read food labels. Become aware of, the different names that sugar could be hiding under, and really stick to foods that have ingredients of, say 5 items or less. And they should be items of real whole food that you recognize, and not something that sounds like an experiment. Ask yourself if what you're craving is actually food, right? So we talked about that earlier, how eat something healthy before you eat your treat or before you give in to that sugar craving, because by the time you're done that healthy food, you may actually realize you weren't actually craving something sweet. You may be satisfying a void in your current moment that is not actually related to food and cravings, okay? So unfortunately, food is something to do, eating is something to do. And so if we were bored or emotional or stressed or have anxiety, or we're super happy, or we're distracted even, so if say you're watching TV or you're in that habit, you feel like you need to snack, okay? So sometimes these cravings are not actually coming from a food standpoint. So be aware of actually what your body really needs. Ask yourself, is this really what I need right now? Is this what I'm craving? Exercise regularly. Exercising is really going to help your body flush out those toxins that are feeding those unhealthy sugars that are increasing your cravings. So exercising is going to make a difference. I know that you're probably thinking like, oh my gosh, this is such simple stuff. But I promise you, healthy living and feeling well really is simple when you break it down into the healthy habits that you commit to, okay? Staying hydrated is another really great one. Oftentimes we mistake hunger for, or thirst for hunger. And so instead of drinking something, we actually eat something. So I encourage you, maybe even try a glass of water before you try eating something sweet or diving into those cravings, so that you can maybe just keep yourself hydrated and see if that was what it was exactly that was triggering that for you, okay? Now, another really great way, so I talked about healthy habits, right? Lifestyle habits are truthfully the best way to feel good, look good, and achieve your goals, okay? So I always encourage all my clients and even all of my friends and family, live the shred lifestyle, okay? You want to be building healthy habits, not restrictions. And the shred lifestyle is really so simple, okay? You're adding more fruits and veggies to your diet. You're drinking more water. You are getting more sleep. You are exercising most days. These are all the things that we're talking about in our lifestyle that actually help reduce our sugar cravings and our desire to eat them. And then even, so the shred lifestyle even actually does specifically include eliminating artificial and refined sugars, because these are specifically what's increasing inflammation that is making so many of these other choices hard for us to do. So if you find that you don't have energy throughout the day because you just feel so bogged down and you just feel so fatigued, I bet if you reduced the amount of artificial and refined sugars in your diet, you would have the energy to do a workout every day. Or maybe a couple times a week. And once you started working out a couple times a week, you would actually find you're drinking more water. And once you start drinking more water, you're going to find your exercises get easier and you crave less sugar. And it's a cycle, okay? So when we start to commit to some of our lifestyle factors that contribute to our health, we will see a snowballing effect in our health and our commitment and our habits that promote good health, okay? So it really, really does all go into one. So some of the common results for many people participating in Shred would be craving more fruits and vegetables, right? Because we are creating a healthy gut, and that healthy gut craves these things, right? We have a healthier weight because we are no longer retaining toxins. We are shedding that excess fat by being more intentional about the food we put into it, by being more intentional about our water and our exercise. We have improved sleep and energy, increased mental clarity. These are all such important things and such common complaints for people. It is not normal for us to feel, fatigued all the time, or to have low energy, or to crave food all the time. That's not normal. It's very common, but it's not normal. So these are common results for people participating in the Shred because they really are doing the simple habits that are required for good health. So joining the Shred is really just as simple as picking your favorite Juice Plus product, okay? Look at how amazing these are, and only for a couple dollars a day gets you all of that. Now, in case I didn't mention, okay, let's back up here a little bit. The Shred is more than a lifestyle, okay? It is a community. It has resources, it has support, there are meal plans, there are workouts, there are recipe books. There is so much going on in there, okay? And it really, really does just start with you spending a couple dollars a day on committing to your health. Now, follow these 3 simple steps to live Shred, okay? 1, connect with the person who invited you here tonight and tell them you want to start shredding. 2, pick your favorite Juice Plus product and put in your first order. Now, if you have kids, or you have kids in your family, or you have kids that you love on, as nieces and nephews, or cousins, or neighbors, or you're part of a scout troop or anything, be sure to ask about the family special deal, okay? The Family Healthy Starts is a fantastic, incredible program where kids actually get to participate in the juice products for free, and the Shred lifestyle is family friendly, okay? So your children are learning these healthy habits right alongside of you, and you are promoting a healthy lifestyle within your home, okay? And then number 3, get invited into the Facebook Shred community group and start your journey to a healthier and happier you. It's really that simple. 3 simple steps. Now, remember, sometimes we crave food because when we're bored, eating gives us something to do. Try making small changes, just one bite at a time. And I'm going to stop that there. And thank you all. Okay, oh my gosh, I see so many questions here. Okay, just give me one moment here.